They said it was impossible. They said,
you can't put together the most elite team of comic book reviewers on the planet and do, a podcast or something like that?
Despite all that, today we can proudly announce. Yeah, they were right. We couldn't do it. So instead, we brought you the most vile, ignorant, unprofessional group of comic book enthusiasts we could find. This is Panel to Panel, the Game Rage Magazine comic podcast.
Back, everyone, to another wonderful episode of Panel to Panel. My name is Josh, and I'm here today with a good buddy Adam.
Greetings.
And if you want to, hear us today talk about the Immortal Hulk, number 14.
Today, tomorrow, forever, together.
Game Rage.
Game Rage.
But if you want to listen to us talk about other things, other podcasts, you can follow us on YouTube at Game Rage Magazine, where you can like, comment, and subscribe to help us out, to help a good buddy Game Rage out.
Yeah, and don't forget to leave comments like, nice try, Super Diddy, nice try, Diddy.
Yeah.
And
hey, am I invited to the next Diddy party? Hey guys, now that Diddy's in jail, when's the next party gonna be?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Or things like when animals get their heads beheaded, and the comment is like, does this hurt the fish?
Yeah, do things like that. Anyways, you can also follow us on social media at Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. You can follow Adam at All Gas No Trash Official on Instagram, and you can go listen to the All Gas No Trash podcast. Also, if you like anime and mangas, you can go listen to Anime Syndicate, and you can follow our good buddy Frank at anime_syndicate_podcast.
Y'all know what to do. Y'all know the drill.
So get to cracking. All right. Now we get to cracking on the Immortal Hulk number 14. And we see this nice embrace by Bruce Banner, his wife.
Nice side boob.
Yeah, we got a lot of side boob going on here.
They're topless.
Yeah, which is weird. And a nuclear explosion in the background with the Hulk looking sullen.
I feel like this is a poster for a movie I've seen before, and this is just the artist doing or Alex Ross doing his own interpretation of it. But I don't fucking know. I've seen it somewhere before.
Yeah, I don't know. When we get the quote at the beginning of the episode, or the beginning of the issue, "Love never dies, a natural death" by Anais Nin, the Four-Chambered Heart.
I have to say, up front. This is not one of my favorite issues of the Hulk.
No, I agree.
I hate the art, and I also I know this is about the death of Thaddeus Ross, Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah.
And also some stuff that goes on story-wise with between Betty Ross and Bruce Banner, but I don't know. I couldn't really get into it for this fucking issue. But anyways, let's get to it.
Anyway, so we start off with the three funerals of fucking Thunderbolt Ross, and Betty is kind of just looking pissy the whole fucking time. They're talking about how basically he died 3 times. Once he was buried at the family plot in New Hampshire. Second time was at the Arlington until they removed it when he was basically a traitor.
Yep.
And then now they're at West Point since, he was an ex-Avenger, a servant of the government, an establishment figure, pardoned and forgiven, worthy of a hero's grave, but they couldn't put him at fucking West or Arlington again, so they buried him at West Point since he was a graduate from there and all that. And Betty wondered which one they thought they were really burying that day, the hero or the monster, or perhaps both.
The same theme that has been consistent throughout the book. Now we're asking the question broadly to different people
Yeah.
within the Hulk universe, but it's about Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, and so we have Tony Stark fucking eulogizing him, and he just says General Ross was a complicated man.
Looking over at the coffin as if something's gonna fucking happen.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, we had our differences, but he'll be remembered as an Avenger and good. And he's like, well, that's all I have prepared, I'm afraid. Would anyone else like to speak? And so then someone from the crowd rogers up, and it's Fordian. Mm-hmm. And he says, I worked with the general many years back at Project Greenskin, or Gamma Base, as it's become known. I knew him well. In many ways, he was a father to me. And he looks over at Betty, and she's looking back at him like, you son of a bitch.
You're not a son to you're not a son to him.
Bastard. And then he says, General Thaddeus Ross taught me many things. To carry myself with authority, to have confidence in my abilities, to assert myself when the world seemed against me. And most of all, he taught me to stand against monsters. There can be no quarter with those forces of chaos that wish to upend the status quo. There can be no harboring of them in our homes, and we zoom in on Betty's face, or in our hearts. No consorting with the enemy. And so
this whole fucking segment is just the new location of Gamma Base, or the Shadow Base thing, and they pick out somebody's carcass. Wait, go back up. There's a part where she says, I'm not surprised that thing with Stearns and Cortez cost a lot of goodwill. I don't know what that's about, but anyways, they're picking up somebody's fucking brain, or bioorganic material, and anyways, carry on.
They're putting back together somebody. I don't know who it is. And so then they're outside at the funeral again, and they're burying the body or whatever. And so fucking they hand the folded flag to fucking 40, and I don't know why that is. And they should be handing it to Betty. And so what's his name? Tony Stark's like, hey, you know that guy Betty? And she's like, we've met. And he's like, oh, Carol's going to be pissed that she wasn't invited. I think she wanted to talk to Fordian about, that whole business with Bruce. And she's like, Betty, I know this isn't the best time, but we're on your side, okay? What happened in Iowa was a mess, but if Bruce had just kept his head, we could have worked it out. The Avengers aren't the bad guys here. Look, we're on the outs with the government ourselves right now. We only want what's best. Bruce can't run forever, not even with the Hulk on his side. He needs to come in. And then she's just like, meh. And Tony Stark, can I give you a ride home at least? I've got a plane at LaGuardia that actually turns into a robot. I call it the Stark Scream, which is actually pretty funny.
It is.
And she says, you've also got a flying death ray that blew up a town, Mr. Stark. I'll fly coach. And then she walks off and says, Betty flew coach. It gave her a few hours to think over the Fordian thing. And she's just saying about like how she checked that no bugs, there were other methods that they could listen in or whatever. And they fought back when she was the Red She-Hulk, of course. And he bore a grudge. He'd had a close relationship with her father, and she hadn't, not really. The last time she ever saw his face was through prison glass. And he'd call her sometimes from the White House, come visit before I'm in jail again, he'd say, but she never did. And now he was dead. And she just couldn't make it seem real. He'd been dead before. So had she, and so had her husband, Bruce. And then you see Bruce sitting at the fucking porch of her house. Betty, I'm looking like a homeless motherfucker.
Looking like grotesque and crusty as fuck.
Yeah.
His fucking eyes in this panel, dude.
Oh, yeah, man. Like,
they're so big.
Yeah. He looks like an anime character. Betty, I'm sorry about your father, and I'm sorry it took so long to call. And then she runs up to him, and she's like, man, I should have fucking, I wanted to slap him. But she just fucking, they embrace, they're making out, full tongue, fucking blah, 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 blah. And then she whispers in his ear, we're not safe, get inside the house. And so then we go back to Agent Burbank. Good news and bad news, General. I've reached the location the monitor team specified, and I'm in position. But there's no clear shot. Permission to put one through Mrs. Banner's back and finish this. Negative, Agent Burbank. And he's like, I thought Friends of the Hulk were enemy collaborators, General. I buried her father today, Burbank. That man meant a great deal to me. I won't send his daughter to join him unless I have to. You weren't there. You didn't see where that monster took us. Request denied, I said. Monitor 5, sync to my screen. I want to see and hear everything. Monitor 5, General, we have a problem. Betty had taken precautions. She already had one of her old uniforms on under her clothes. They were bulletproof. It seemed practical. And she'd signaled a friend to come over. Bruce wouldn't take it well. She knew, but there was safety in numbers. Finally, she activated the statue. It's consecrated to Icon, blocks all psychic and remote viewers. A little leftover from my time with the Order of the Shield. I save it for when I need it. He's like, oh yeah, that's the secret society you run with, isn't it? The ones who wanted to kill me? And she's like, I ran with them, past tense. The Order doesn't return my calls now that I'm only human. And you managed to plan your own death without any help. Only it didn't take, did it? Betty. She's like, I cried over you, Bruce. I didn't cry over my father, but I cried over you. I wonder, was that because I thought you were dead or because I knew you were alive? And then he's Burbank's looking at him through thermal imaging, and he's like, hard to tell who's who. 50-50 chance at the monster who took me into hell, though. Agent Burbank, do not fire. And so Bruce is going on to talk about how he's learned to trust feelings like that he's had, and they protect him, and something happened, and he's like, before I called you, and it broke me open, Betty. It tore me in half. I didn't have my protection anymore, and everything I'd been numbing, Rick Jones is dead. He didn't come back. He's gone. I can't believe Rick's really gone.
His buddy's dead. The Abomination, the second or third, I forget which one he is, but yeah, he did.
Yeah, and so then we see that Agent Burbank is still fucking like looking at them through the sights. He's like singing fucking rhymes. Ip dip doo, cat's got the flu. And then he's got somebody in his sights. He's like, dog's got the chicken pox. And he's yelling at him, Agent Burbank, stand down now. That is an order. And then the sun's gone down. And he's like, Betty, I'm so sorry. And he's like, so out goes you. And she's like, Bruce, I'm sorry, but And then she just gets fucking shot right through the fucking head.
Beamed.
Lasered. And then Bruce is looking at her. He's like, oh, what? And then fucking Burbank's like, whoops. General, I hit the wrong one. I could take him. It'll be a rush. Swapping out for the 1,000 cal. And then he's like, stand by. And then the Hulk is fucking in full force. He switches to this 1,000 cal gun and he fucking shoots the Hulk right in the fucking head.
Dude, he takes out half his fucking, like a quarter of the top of his head. So his brain is like exposed and shit.
Yeah, and he's like, come on, I could take you, you green freak. It'll be a rush. You're going back to hell tonight. And Fordian's telling him, remember the protocol, stun and run. And he's like, I can take him. It's night, you damn fool. Were you asleep during retraining? Unless the sun's up, he doesn't die. None of them die. And then Betty's fucking Red Hulk shit turns back on.
Yep.
And he's like, I can take him. It'll be a rush. And then the Hulk has a bunch of fucking bullet holes in him. And then he says, and then someone comes from behind and goes, at ease, soldier. I've got it from here. And then just chucks his ass back. And the Hulk's looking fucked, and he says, Betty called, Bruce. She said you might be in trouble. Now you've obviously had a setback, but if you can try to stay calm, we'll all get through this. Trust me, I'm your doctor. Try to stay calm. And then, who the fuck is this guy?
Doc Samson, his therapist.
His therapist. And so...
My favorite part is like the
giant hole in the Hulk's head, he's like looking through it.
Yeah, 1,000 caliber round went through Hulk's head, and he's got half his fucking brain missing, and he's still functional.
Yeah. And the title, the name of the we only meet at funerals, and this is how it ends. And then we get to see the issue of the next one where the Hulk is sitting on one of those psychiatric couches with sunglasses on, and then he's just sitting there fucking like taking notes or whatever. Man, that's pretty funny.
I don't know. I think that's where all that shit started with my father. Sir, this is a furniture business.
Sir, this is a furniture store. Why are you telling us this? Yeah, man. This issue wasn't my favorite. There was kind of like the weird backstory shit. It kind of didn't progress things.
Nah, I don't like...
I feel like it had to happen to get to what's going to happen in the next issue.
Yeah, I think the exposition boxes were a bit much.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I don't want to read this shit and for you to tell me what's happening. Like, show me, motherfucker. Show me, motherfucker. I also didn't like the art, and I don't know. I just didn't like the through lines throughout the throughout this issue, and I'm like, I don't really care about Thaddeus Bolt Ross. If it's just to bring up the fact that he's going to come back later as Red Hulk, because the last issue, I think, or 2 issues ago, Red Hulk was in hell, or at least Bruce Banner was under the impression that he was still alive. He's like, so what was he doing in hell?
Yeah.
But I don't even think that was a real thing.
No, yeah.
Until he died recently, I guess. So I don't know. But anyways, yeah, not particularly like my favorite issue of this comic book, but not everything could be a fucking home run. And I think this is more an issue of just trying to get things in order for, a stepping stone to get to the parts that we need to get to. But
exactly.
This issue just ended up being a casualty of just shit and piss. I don't know.
Basically. Yeah, I agree. Anyways, all right. Well, I guess that'll do it for us on this one. So stay tuned for the next ones. But in the meantime, you can go to YouTube, Game Rage Magazine, and you can listen to all of our other stuff that we do while you're waiting for the new episode of Panel to Panel to come out, or the next episode. You can like, comment, and subscribe there. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. You can go follow Adam at All Gas No Trash Official on Instagram, and you can follow our good buddy Frank at anime_syndicate_podcast. That'll do it for us. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
That'll do it for
That was Panel to Panel, the Game Rage Magazine comic book podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to know more and follow along, go to Instagram and TikTok. Follow at Game Rage Magazine. If you want to follow on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Tune in next time.